This is my favorite.
Oh, all right.
The distraction of happiness.
Oh, yeah. You like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about here, and I'll just read it here. When we try to satisfy the pursuit of happiness in the pursuit of self, we always fall short of the truest, most lasting forms of happiness. It's that pursuit of happiness that makes us unhappy.
Yeah. It's the pursuit. It is the pursuit of happiness in selfish pursuits that makes us unhappy.
Yeah.
Is how I would define it. I don't think there's anything wrong with the pursuit of happiness. I think we all want to live a life that we're satisfied with and find meaning and joy in. The problem is that we're chasing it in a lot of the wrong places, and we confuse the pursuit of self and the pursuit of happiness, and we think they're the same. But in reality, it's when we serve others, when we take care of others, when we live for others, that when we live selfless lives, that we get to the end of our lives most satisfied with it.
Yeah.
And isn't it true that there's a flip side of that? We can also get addicted or distracted by the need to contribute, feeling as though we need to always give without making sure that we are taking care of ourselves as well. So I wouldn't call it a balance, but there's like this sort of homeostasis of contribution in a way.
Yeah.
So much of the book is about what is motivating us to do the things that we do. Like, do we do the things that we do to make more money? Do we do the things that we do so that we selfish, like we're taking care of ourselves? Like if this is the goal, then we get distracted, I think, from things that actually matter in the long run. And so, as I mentioned in the book, I mean, what's the saying? You can't pour from an empty cup. There's a space for caring for ourselves and taking good care of ourselves and not running on empty ourselves. Yeah. But is the goal of that so I can just pour into the biggest cup that I can possibly have? Or is the goal of investing into myself so that I can invest my life into others? And I think that's the point I try to make.
Yeah.
And which you're trying to make too. Maybe not.
I'm making a point where
I think the biggest distraction in our society might be that mixed with this next one. So the happiness piece plus the distraction of money, which is the fourth distraction.
Yeah, that's a good one, huh?
You have a really interesting take in the book that not a lot of people talk about is maybe you have enough money already.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
As soon as you say that, it's like,
people don't like that.
Here comes the point of privilege.
Right.
But then you start going into the stats, and it's like, 43% of people live off of $5.50 or less a day. So you're already in the top half of the world, roughly.
Yeah.
And probably if you're living in America, we have people in 190 countries who listen. But if you're living in America, you're probably in the top 10%. And so even when Ryan and I grew up really poor, it's perspectival, right?
Yeah.
We grew up poor for America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But poor in America is not poor in Bangladesh.
No, we were the fattest kids in the 5th grade. I mean, we were poor, but we sure got our meals in.
That's funny. That's a good point.
We sure were able to eat.
Yeah. We were malnourished in a different way.
Yeah.
In terms of nutrition, but also in terms of like support and community, et cetera. So there's different types of malnourishment.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about money?
So this is probably the second thought that came after I started minimizing possessions. So if I was going to own less stuff and be content to own less stuff, then what role is money supposed to play in my life? Like if the goal isn't to have more money to buy more stuff, then what's the point of money? Also, I started to realize that I could live on a lot less money than I thought I needed to get by. So it's like 72% of Americans have financial related stress. And it's just a fascinating stat to me, considering we are the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And still over 7 out of every 10 of us are worried about, stressed about money. It's not because we don't have enough money. Like there are some people who don't have enough money, but the people who don't have enough money are a far smaller percentage of people than think they are. Did I phrase that right?
No, it made sense.
And so why are we so stressed about money? And I've just come to the realization that we keep looking for money to provide something that it's never going to provide for us. We want money to provide happiness, and we want money to provide security. And it doesn't provide either of those things, at least a little bit at the beginning, and then above and beyond that, not much longer. And so we think if I have that much money, if I make that much money, I'll finally be happy and I'll finally feel secure. And we get to that much money and we don't feel any happier and we don't feel any secure. We're just as worried about money as we were with our last paycheck before. And the thinking isn't, maybe money isn't going to provide those things. The thinking is, oh, I just had the wrong number in mind. And actually, I need this much money to feel happy and secure. And we get in this endless chase of needing and wanting more and more money all the time, when in reality, a lot of people already have enough. There's enough coming in, and there are other places to find happiness and security.
Yeah. I remember
80% of people, sorry.
No worries.
I shouldn't be cutting off on your podcast.
You're fine, man. Cut me off.
80 in our survey, 80% of people said they'll be happier if they had more money.
Ooh.
And I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it's probably not 0%. It's also probably not 80%. I mean, depending on what that money's going to provide. But I remember when I was in the corporate world, I had this $1 million number in my mind. If I could just make $1 million, I'll be set. I could maybe retire early. I had all these, stories I was telling myself about $1 million. And then when it came time to start thinking about walking away from my job, I actually sat down and did the numbers. I put a budget together. And as I was putting it together, I was just shocked at how I didn't need $1 million to survive. I mean, that first year we got laid off, I think Josh and I made like $22,000 or something. I mean, it was hardly anything. And that was one of the most stress-free years of my life. Yeah.
You identified what enough was for you. Yeah. And it's also worth noting that enough changes in time. You have a wife and a daughter now. So my enough when I started minimalism is different now. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be a fixed number, especially with inflation and all these other things, right? That $1 million to buy you a parking spot in LA.
Oh my God.
And so it's depending on where you live, what your needs are, what the times are. But even those things, the acquisition of those things aren't necessarily going to make you happier. They won't make you more secure. They might make you slightly more comfortable, but that comfort just ups your threshold for the desire for more and more and more comfort. We can bubble wrap our world, but it doesn't mean that we're going to be happier or more secure.
Yeah, man.
The next one is the distraction of possessions, which we've never talked about. So no, we'll skip that one because we're going to be talking more about that, especially on the minimal episode. But the sixth distraction, and this is one that I think a lot of us don't realize we have, and it's the distraction of applause.
Yeah.
Another way to say that might be validation, needing to be accepted. Nothing wrong with being accepted. It feels wonderful. But as soon as we feel as though I must have your applause, your adulation, your veneration, now I've put myself in a little prison.
Yeah, agreed. Or not even just that I need it, but I want it so much that I begin living my life for that applause, for that appreciation. I mean, the reality is some of the most important things that we do in life will never get noticed, will never be appreciated. Man, I think of all the mothers out there who are raising their children and are never going to be applauded for investing their lives into their kids. And yet, I mean, probably the most important job in all of society is raising healthy, moral children, that contribute to society. And so, yeah, there's some jobs that, require applause and require attention. And there's some that naturally attract it more than others. And there's some personality types that attract it more than others. But when we fall into that distraction of living my life for the applause of others, then I think is where we start to get detracted or distracted, I think, from some of the most important things that we can and should be doing with our lives. So.
Yeah. And we all desire it to some extent, right? I mean, I want to be liked. I love being liked. But it's when you need to be liked, when you start living to be liked. And I think with everything we're talking about, like the money, for example, this isn't about making anyone feel guilty for needing some money or for desiring some applause. It's really about, like, is that your main focus? If these things become your main focus and that's what drives you, it's probably going to lead you somewhere that you didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you should have wrote the book. Did I get that sentence in there? Did I get anything close to that sentence in the book? Because you nailed it.
Thanks, man. Thanks for applauding me.
You guys make your appearance in that chapter.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the next one that was most surprising to me.
Oh, beautiful. All right, good.
Did you enjoy this standalone Patreon highlight? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalist Private Podcast, available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.